There's probably nothing I can say that would introduce Lee better than what he can do to himself. So I'm going to let him give a quick background on what he's done.
Yeah, it's great to meet you about half an hour ago. So I really enjoy your company, what your company is doing. So my name is Deng. I used to be an academic. I was a professor in Canada. And then at the turn of the century, I actually was recruited by Microsoft, to be their, AI, the speech and language, and machine learning, at the head. I was there for about 18 years. And one of the major achievements that I made at Microsoft was to bring this modern AI, deep learning from academia, from Toronto, all the way to US. Actually started in Redmond over here. So we work very closely. And then my collaborator actually got Nobel Prize just about 1 year ago for the work that we did together. In about 7 years ago, Citadel, that probably that is one of the largest hedge funds in the Wall Street. They actually hired me away from Microsoft, and I moved from high tech to Wall Street for about 7 years until now.
So hold the mic a little closer.
Yeah. Okay, great. That's my history. Yeah, thank you.
And I think one of the so for those of you that don't know me, I'm Vaibhav. I will try and entertain us and mostly let Lee do most of the talking. He's got a really fascinating background. But I think one of the most interesting stories about Lee is just the people that he's worked with in the past.
Yeah.
Ilya was an intern of yours at one point.
Yeah.
Those of you that don't know, Ilya, how do I describe Ilya? OpenAI, one of the most renowned researchers in the world, building the foundation models that we all use today.
Yeah.
How did you start working with people like that?
It's all due to my connection during my academic times with, all the best people in Toronto area. So I was a professor at Waterloo. That was about 60 miles away from Toronto. We are all, AI community. And during my time over there, that was AI's winter, right? I actually was a professor from 1989 to 1999, 10 years over there. So I get to know, I did a lot of machine learning research over there. I built a team there, together with the people in Toronto. So we work all together. And they produced just wonderful students. And I moved to Microsoft, and I was fortunate to be able to stay the connection with them. One of the most beautiful things about Microsoft Research, MSR, which I was a part of, was to maintain all the academic connections in the world. So each year in the summer, we actually hosted what's called the faculty summit, inviting about 200 professors. Actually, I was the one that was part of the program.
Yeah.
So I invested, Toronto people, MIT people, all these major academic people coming to, and then Ilya Sutskever, Alex Krashavsky, and George Dahl, a whole bunch of students from Geoffrey Hinton actually became our intern. Because at that time, AI was in the winter. So, they are lucky to come to Microsoft to be intern with me.
AI was not popular, believe it or not, just 10 years ago.
Yeah, that was 2009 to 2011.
I remember when I was doing a lot of computer vision work in 2015, all the hot rage was classical mathematical models.
Yeah.
And sometime in 2017, the world said, nope. CVPR suddenly became all deep learning.
2012.
2012, oh yeah.
Not 17, 2012.
So I have a question for you. When you go and look for this incredible talent, in today's era, I think hiring is one of the hardest questions for everyone involved.
Yeah.
How do you identify the talent of the Ilya of tomorrow?
Okay.
What are things you look for specifically?
So let me share some of the experience that I have. That may help for those people who are actually looking for a job, especially for undergraduate, for graduate student, or maybe senior people. My son is here, right? So hire him. Okay. So he's just about to graduate from. So in old days means about 5 years ago. Okay. Most of people, organizations at Microsoft Research and also in the hedge fund, we hire PhDs, from Stanford, PhDs from MIT, mathematics, physicists, computer scientists, machine learning, all this. And they have to very, very heavy mathematics, right? And they make a lot of money because, the skills are very, very special. It's not until about 3 years ago when generative AI became the fashion, right? The ChatGPT when it came out. By the way, when I was at Microsoft, that was something related to that part. I'm probably going to share with you separately. There's very, very interesting how OpenAI started their ChatGPT. Now after that, we decided that the whole industry, which is not public, right? Wall Street is very secretive compared to high tech. High tech used to be very open. When I was at Microsoft, I published almost everything. So the best research paper that I published actually was co-authored with Nobel laureate doing the work we do. We published every single numbers, including all the secret numbers, hyperparameters for neural nets. We published everything until a day when OpenAI actually tried to use ChatGPT to almost beat the business of Google, and everybody decided to become close, right? Including OpenAI become close to AI. It's all due to competition. But anyway, but in Wall Street, my second career, actually my third career after Microsoft, everything has been secretive until forever, right? So nothing has been open. So most of the work that I did, I couldn't even talk about. Well, that's why I told you earlier, don't talk about any hedge fund, because they make just too much money. Right? They're just grinding things, all that. But anyway, so what's your question again? In terms of hiring, in terms of hiring.
Yeah.
So
how do you identify the best talent?
Correct.
What do you do?
Okay. Interview, of course.
Okay.
We do face-to-face interview. We don't trust
no Zoom
AI.
interviews.
Zoom interview in the beginning.
Okay.
You actually take off.
Sure.
Non-promising candidates, right? But at the end, we do face-to-face interview. We used that 5 years ago. Yeah, I talk about what happened there 5 years ago. The interviews are very mathematical. They ask all these brain-teasing questions. And it turned out that about 3 years ago, when ChatGPT became better and better, we actually used ChatGPT immediately. After it came out, we used to hire a lot of people who have very, very strong machine learning background. They ask all very, very difficult questions. Actually, it turned out that after over the last 2 years, those people become negative because they don't believe. Most of the people who are very strong in machine learning, they just don't believe that generative AI can be so strong. Yeah. They say, "Oh, this is the fashion. It's going to be gone," and then immediately we don't even continue interviewing them. And we found that the best people that we hire now are the ones that just fresh from university, like my son's class, and they actually really do the hands-on work, right? They just trust everything. Like you need to have some of the faith, right, for the technology. And those people who have a lot of, but actually to me, it took me about 2 or 3 months to really understand why ChatGPT can work so well. In the beginning, I thought that they probably put some, special kind of sauce. No, it's not special sauce. It's really just making, the pre-training, the power of pre-training, and then fine-tuning.
Yeah,
how they put them together, and the pre-training and fine-tuning this terminology was the one I myself published with those individual Toronto students, professors about 15 years ago. Our paper is called pre-training stuff. At that time, we actually saw that when you get more and more data, you get better and better. But at that time, we didn't have
you don't have the compute.
Yeah, the computer we have something, right? I mean, Jensen Huang actually personally sent, give me a GPU, 2015, as a personal, gift to me, thanking for my helping to purchase so much GPU for Microsoft at that time. But anyway, but it took a while for people to really buy in to actually invest in the GPU compute to have that happen.
So firstly, let it be known, as accomplished as Lee is, he's clearly a much more accomplished father for all the advocacy that he's doing. But that goes into my next question. I think I agree with you that so many of the best candidates that we also see are coming out of undergrad because it's almost like if you've ever learned to drive, going from a driving mode of controlling the car, and then suddenly going to a self-driving car. My mom, when she first sat in the self-driving car, was like, she couldn't believe and she was almost shocked and would almost want to stop it. I think the younger kids, they don't stop the models.
Exactly. Yeah.
They just let them go.
They let it go. Yeah. They trust the technology to begin with, right? Because they didn't go through all this, old sort of path to lead to technology. If you go through the path, if you really smart, you actually can appreciate why it works. But most of the people, they just looking at proof, right? Wow, this one I cannot prove that I don't even do that, right? And of course, those people don't really trust. They always thought that, wow, once you get a hallucination, it's going to destroy things. It's be careful. They just put too much of this stuff to this technology. So, like in my current company, we actually lay off about more than 60% of all the PhDs. Partly because, well, actually, like about more than 1 year ago, we decided that, all these, very strong mathematicians, some computer scientist theorists, they love to do proof because before that this AI technology came around, you need to prove, otherwise you lose money. You have no idea what's going on, right? We need all these people to do very detailed, but because of the limitation of the constraint, they couldn't do large scale work. Otherwise, they couldn't do any of the analysis. Once they are not able to do analysis, they give up. They say, well, let's find different problem to solve. And then we actually do believe that if you scale up the infrastructure, scale up the model, even for financial marketing, we can do much, much better than others. Actually, most of the good work are done by undergraduate, interns, and then they actually get hired right afterwards.
I completely agree with that.
It's just within 18 months, the history.
So pushing that belief to the further end, how far do you believe? How far can you let these models go? What's the furthest you've seen someone in your company push these models to the limit?
So for the Wall Street AI, it's quite similar to high tech. It scales up to some extent, and then it plateaus. And you have to have a new way of doing, innovation, new way of, training the model, different algorithm. But the key difference is that the Wall Street data is very, very noisy, extremely noisy, not like, high-tech data, right? It has some noise, right? But not as much, right? You don't have all the words misspelled, right? But in our, industry, lots of things are very, are wrong. Like news, right? The news come out, and somebody, say certain things, especially politician, and you don't know whether you can trust them or not, right? So you have to do a lot of testing. And for that kind of work, there's a specialized way of building the model. Unfortunately, we won't be able to publish any of those. But the challenge is much higher. And then another key difference is that there's competition, right? If everybody is doing just superb job, like in high tech world, you have OpenAI, ChatGPT, you have XAI, you have Claude. They are all good, very good. When they compete, then it probably doesn't matter because all the users can use all the models. Whereas in high tech, in Wall Street, you can use all the great models. Everybody compete each other. Everybody lose money. So so people have to find some niche to use the new way of using the data, new way of cleaning the data, new way of the building model. Even if the model itself doesn't do well itself, it actually can outbid. So the speed is important. So these are a few very different kind of ways of developing model.
So when you think about it from a landscape and an industry perspective, where do you think the value is really being accrued here? Do you think the value is being accrued by the model creators, as in like OpenAI and Anthropic, where they will kind of go upstream? Or do you think the value is more being accrued by the upstream application builders who are consuming this model and treating them like commoditized hardware?
Okay, I think both.
Okay.
So I would say applications. So in most of the Wall Street firms, they don't build foundation model, with a few exceptions. I won't tell you which company are doing that. Application probably would be more that people look into. How to make use of the right data, how to clean up the data, how to identify what kind of data is right, what kind of data is, is noisy, and that's very important. And then you also want to use the data that may not look like useful, but your competitors won't be able to see right away. Then those data become very useful, and then how to build a model to take advantage of those data.
Is there a practical example of that? Perhaps you've seen, perhaps in your Microsoft days, that's kind of related to that?
Yeah. So at Microsoft Day, there was not much competition, right? And our really product competition at that time was Google, right?
Yep.
And then Google and there's another company, and Facebook was also a competition. Well, I was building natural language understanding model and also voice recognition model. But they are all good, right? So it's not like Wall Street. If they are all good, then everybody lose money. If only one of you are good, you're making a lot of money. But if you are not the best, but you are new, different than many other better companies model, you're fast, you still can make money, but not very long. And after a while, you lose. And then there's all sorts of kind of competition. And during my Microsoft time, and 100% looking for the best model. We beat the benchmark.
I see.
And that part is very important. Whereas in Wall Street, it's different. You don't beat benchmark. If everybody beats benchmark, everybody lose money. And then you have to think about different ways of getting around. And then also you want to keep things secret, right? Otherwise, but people can see what's going on. During the open market, everybody can see, oh gosh, this company, maybe putting very big order. People can guess. There are a lot of intelligent ways of doing that.
I remember one of the funniest patterns that was shared to me when I was working at a hedge fund before was whenever there used to be a sunny day in Paris, for a long time, reliably, you could make money on the Japanese markets because they would just go up. Yeah. And who correlates that pattern? Yeah. Someone did, and someone made money on that for a while.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's a very small alpha.
Yeah,
it's a very small alpha.
Exactly, and it only lasts for a very tiny.
Very tiny period, and people actually figure out. Right, and then people, use that as another features, and then you lose that advantage.
When you see end-to-end application companies, how many of you have heard of Harvey AI, for example? They're in legal for AI. What about these kinds of companies? Are they long-term alpha? Or are they short-term alpha? Where do you classify these vertical SaaS?
Yeah, but I think all this eventually will be eaten by OpenAI or Claude.
Okay.
Some of my team at Microsoft during my time over there, two of them actually became co-founder of XAI, and one of them, I think they both left now. Just over the last 2 weeks, they one actually got disease. Yeah, a lot happened in XAI. And what's your question again? Yeah.
Well, when you see these vertical SaaS companies like Harvey AI, how long of a time horizon do they really have? Should people that are trying to pursue companies, how do you find that alpha that is long-term and meaningful in this competitive world?
So I personally believe that some trivial applications, like legal, is pretty trivial application, right? Because it's a narrow domain, number one. Number two, there is a reasonably good precedence, right? So who wins, who loses. And all these problems can be solved by, the standard large model from the good companies. And you need to find, but finance AI is harder, much harder. Because number one, the data are not open. And number two, there's a competition going on. And most of the large language models don't have the capability now to handle competition like game theory. Right? You need to use the game theory try to guide you develop a model. And none of them now are in the current model.
So just to articulate this a little bit better, what I'm really hearing from you is that the reason Harvey AI in your mind has less alpha is because, for example, all the legal documents are all filed publicly.
Correct.
Everyone can access them. So even if you have data today, you won't have unique data tomorrow.
Correct.
But if you're a firm like, let's say, Cooley, who has internal documents, that, I'm guessing, might be more interesting.
Yeah, if you have internal data and then only you have it and other people don't have, I think you will have more edge in that kind of application.
Does that make, would that make an inference like medical domains much more interesting than legal domains because it's a little bit more closed off and a little bit more
medical domain is harder. I think it would take longer for AI to disrupt. So one of my collaborators, Jeffrey Hinton, he used to work with me. We wrote papers together.
For those of you that don't know, Jeffrey Hinton is considered the godfather of AI, nomenclaturally.
Yeah. He used to work with me. Well, he was probably about 15 years more senior to me. When he was the full professor, I was assistant professor. When we both, in 2015, at that time, he wasn't that famous, right? At that time, and then actually, I was the one who nominated him for, not nominate, one of the 3 reference for his Turing Award. In 2018, he became much more famous. And once he got Nobel Prize, he became even more famous. But anyway, so in 2015, he actually predicted that radiologists will be gone within 10 years. And then he was wrong.
So maybe 12.
Yeah. Well, no. Actually, I think all these medical AI, professional will stay much longer. And the reason is very simple now. And he actually openly admitted he made a mistake on that, because I mean, if you're just looking at radiologists, videos or whatever images, you can identify cancer. That actually can do better with the AI than the professional. But that's not the whole story, right? There are so many other things that have to get together to provide the not just diagnosis but also treatment altogether. And there's very much it should be personalized also. So I think the most important thing is healthcare AI has longer lifespan than legal AI or maybe some other kind of AI. Like art AI, artistic AI. I think I probably wants to sustain for a long time. The main reason is because medical healthcare can absorb, can expand. The more you have this AI, the services, the more people can benefit. You don't have saturation, right? Whereas the legal AI, I believe there's a saturation. Not everybody needs a lawyer, right? Maybe somebody may have about 5 cases you need a lawyer, but not 100 cases. But for healthcare, people can live longer and longer. You need more and more services. So more AI. The more AI you have, the better it is. So I think that area is going to be good.
I mean, some lawyers might argue that you need them for every little thing, that every dispute that possibly happens.
Yeah, they could. Yeah. They could. The privacy, I think, is as important as well. Your company is doing. That was very. I think it's going to be sustained for a long time.
What when you think about like all the advice to so many people here, I know a lot of people raise their hands that there are founders here. Mm-hmm. How would you recommend that they think about businesses? Should they think about, hey, let's build a business and get acquired in the next 5 years because every business is doomed after that, and OpenAI is going to take over? Or should they try and take on and build a 20-year business like Microsoft?
Yeah. So I feel that depends on the field. Right? Okay. If you do artistic AI, doing the art, I don't think it's going to sustain for long, right?
So you make money today if you're doing that.
Yeah, if you do that, as soon as possible. Like for example, Adobe, in a big trouble, right? They do a lot of, I think, all the tools. I think they just drop the, their value so fast. But there are some other AIs. I think that probably you should keep yourself, like your company, rather than to be rushed to be sold, because you should look at the sustaining power of all your moat of your company. If you feel that your moat, like private data, is a very important moat, and also any field that has an adversarial nature will sustain for a long time, like finance. It will do a long time.
So where people are directly competing against each other and zero sum.
You can do that. But if you are doing financial services, I don't think it's going to sustain.
Like accounting.
Yeah. Okay. Financial service, for example, like in the banking, right? In the banking industry, there's not much. It's not the kind of company. So, like in financial AI, there are 2 parts. Right? One part is investment, and one part is service. They are very different. You have to do payment stuff. Yeah, I think it'll be easier to be disrupted by AI. But if you are doing investment, the people are competing with each other. You get a finite source of information. Finite resources, and that's much harder.
So switching topics a little bit, what I'm always curious about, especially from experts in AI like yourself, is a lot of people on Twitter or online are often like, code is dead, code is meaningless. Yeah. You don't need this anymore, just vibe code everything. Yeah. Is that real? Are we done? No more software engineers?
Yes and no. Okay, so I do believe that because coding is not, coding is really not the product now, right? Coding really is a way of thinking. It's a way of thinking how to solve the problem. So I still encourage all my kids, don't give up coding. You should know the principle of coding. So many universities ask me advice on how to change their computer science curriculum, because I work for university, I work for industry. So my advice is always that there's no point of teaching individual languages. Teach Python, teach Java, and those are not as important as teaching what's called the paradigms of programming. You understand the principle, how to use program to solve the problem, and that's just much more important. So when I was at MIT many years ago, the best professors are, they don't teach individual C programming language, this language, they teach paradigm, program paradigm. Usually paradigm actually teach you the difference between language, what's the principle of coding, right? So I believe your company are doing new programming, you probably take this route rather than, nowadays using English, the best language, of coding, is
Yep.
English. I still believe that.
It really is.
Yeah, it could be Chinese too, right?
With more training data.
Yeah, so most of the people in my company don't write the code directly.
Yeah.
They all use the vibe coding. So like using cursor, using many other type of tools.
So like the role of a software engineer is kind of more like
changed.
the role of a design, like architect.
Yeah, exactly.
In some ways.
Yeah. So a software engineer, I think career will change very, very quickly. Maybe this is probably the quickest career that maybe change to something else.
You were talking about feedback loops earlier, and
Yeah.
I think kind of the reason why that's likely true is software is one of the only fields in the world where we have such a rapid feedback loop. You write code, code for testing,
Exactly.
loop, and you're done.
Yeah, exactly. And also, this is a finite domain. It's a limited domain.
Yeah.
It's much easier to be. There are actually quite a number of very good companies doing coding, including your company and many companies that I know. Coding, another property of coding task is that you know the answer. You know whether you can
Verifiable.
accomplish. It's verifiable. Yeah, this is the technical word for verifiable. Just like Go, the games, right? You know who wins, who loses. Once you have that property, you actually can use AI to generate infinite amount of data, and then you can test them without having to have a human involved. But if you are doing finance or medical, domain, you don't have a verifiable, problem, and that's much harder.
Yeah, and it changes a lot faster than code does. Code just is.
Yeah, exactly. So coding problem is not surprising. The first one that has been disrupted by Claude, right?
To be fair, I do like the title of software architect a lot more than software engineer.
Yeah,
so it's kind of a
exactly.
win for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But I have another question for you. You've worked in such depth with so many people and in so many domains. Have you ever considered doing your own startup, and why not? If not,
Yeah, I actually, when I was a professor many years ago, during my time in Canada, I had a startup to have 2 kids for speech recognition. And I just realized that I'm just not very good at that. I just hate to do mundane work. I hate to hire accounting. I hate to hire, and then I tried to get somebody to help me, and then I didn't find the right person. And then the startup just didn't succeed. And then it turned out that anybody know about hidden Markov model? Hidden Markov model. This is a very, very powerful statistical model during in 90s. And then it turned out that there's 2 companies. One is the one that I actually started up, and it didn't succeed. Just because it's just too mundane work. The people I didn't know how to judge people psychological effect. So it turned out that some people try to take advantage of. But I decided I gave up. And then the other company that is doing very similar is from Cambridge University. That startup actually took off. And then when I was interviewing with Microsoft at the end of the last century, 1999. So there's no interview. The only interview question, or kind of interview question, is that what company we should acquire. So actually, I recommend that company, and Microsoft bought that company with $800 million.
and then they gave him a job offer.
I could have, if I actually, so I think that doing startup require, and also I was too academic at that time. My, goal is to solve the problem technically. So I was doing everything technology, hidden Markov model, having the 2 kids, and I just, didn't like. I think to have good startup, you need to have at that time I was very young, right? More than 30 years ago, I was young. But I just, loved the technical, solution too much. And I just, tried to get all this mundane work that CEO, founder would have been doing to my, proposed collaborator. I got and if I don't, is the right person, it's not going to succeed. So I'm glad that now you are doing that right. Learning some
really,
experience
really
I have.
boring.
Yeah. It is mundane. I just, I had to do tax return, right? I had to do, find accounting. I had to count money, right? When money coming here, I confused with the million versus billion, I'm just not very good at that. But I love, how to solve the problem. I love language. I love speech. I love so as a matter of fact, I was starting doing what's called N-gram model. Anybody know about large language model? It's called N-gram, right? So it's called you predict the next word using the previous, context. Now we can go about, 1 million. No, at that time I used 2 words to predict the next word. That's called a trigram model. And then use the 4 words to predict the next word. That will be a quadrogram model, whatever. So I was doing from 1 to 2 to 3 all the way to 8. Once you do the 8 without using neural network, use statistical method, it's just impossible.
Yeah.
Because the space exponentially increase. You have to do all the clustering, but I just enjoy doing this.
Given that you went so deep into the speech domain, the language domain, how did you feel when you first tried ChatGPT?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you spent 20 years doing this.
Yeah, so the first time I saw ChatGPT come out, I was testing. Well, that was, I think, December, end of November 2024. When I tried, I said, gosh, that cannot be right. They must have some, special kind of ways of doing that. And then I was thinking carefully about exactly how they can actually predict the next word one by one to get some intention coming over here. And then immediately I actually called one of my guys who used to report to me. Now he's actually the head of the reasoning team at Microsoft. Not at Microsoft. He moved from, or soon after I left Microsoft, he moved to Google Brain to lead the reasoning team. So I called him right away. I say, hi, Danny, this is something coming out. Do you have something at Google that can convince me this is fake or it's real? And actually, we spent about 3 hours talking about. He said at Google they have something better. But they just didn't want to release because they worry about, And then it took me about 3 weeks, not only testing, but also trying to reflect as to my previous path. So I started with 1 gram, 2 gram, 3 gram, 4 gram, 5 gram, 6 gram. It took me 10 years to do that. Because to go from 3 gram to 8 gram, your search space increases from English has how many words? 50,000 words somewhere. From 50,000 to power of 3 to 50,000 to power of 8. It's just tremendous of space, And then all the work we have been doing at Microsoft was trying to cluster all this, of 50,000 to power. It's almost infinite amount of number into finite size, and then we can do all this. And then I was thinking very carefully. I even talked to all these experts in neural net. I said, gosh, what's going to happen? And they said that at that time, ChatGPT has only 20,000 word tokens as the context length.
Yeah.
And that actually equivalent to 20,000 gram.
Yeah.
Right? But of course, you have to trust the neural network actually can predict anything. Right? If you don't believe neural has power, but I trust that. Because I work with the Godfather working on that. Immediately, it realized it took me 10 years to go from 3 gram to 8 gram. 10 years at Microsoft. That's how Microsoft, all the product came around at that time.
And they went to 20.
Now that 20,000.
20,000.
20,000. Of course, it has all the possible power. Right? So immediately, I got in. And most of the people, in PhDs in computer science in my company, they still don't believe it because they don't understand neural network power.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think for me, I didn't believe in this stuff for a long time. I'm also on the non-believer side for a while. And what convinced me was my co-founder. He's an amazing engineer. He does not write C++ assembly driver code.
Yeah.
And in November of 2023, when these models came out, in December of 2023, he built a kernel module for the Mac OS. I was like, how'd you do that? He's like, ChatGPT. I was like, no fucking way. And
that's it.
And he showed it, and I was like, okay, I believed it. Because when he can do this, I was like, these models are for real.
Yeah, exactly. So especially for coding, right? When you have coding, when you have about how many, when you get 8 tokens, Of course, you get everything out, right? I mean, you don't have to go through all this, very large,
One last question for you from the total other side of the audience, which I think a lot of you are investors over here as well. So you said you went through the researcher route. You're now running a company where you're hiring a bunch of people. So we talked about that. We talked about why you didn't do a startup. Well, as an investor with all this background, how do you evaluate companies and what do you think of? What are questions you think give you alpha over other investors to find the best companies before they do?
Yeah, this is very tricky. So many of these companies in the Wall Street, they are actually doing they're like PE company, a private equity company, or the private company. They approach me asking very similar questions. It's not VC. Actually, it turned out that VC is even harder than PE.
Yeah.
You know why? Because PE, they actually gave everything to AI. I mean, they want to put all the data to me. Because like for example, PE usually is really to be bigger, right? It's be later stage. They have just much more data, and public company has even more data, right? That's why hedge fund, start, making money out of public company first, and PE. Now for VC, number one, sometimes they don't even give all the data to you, but more importantly, PE, the VC, the data by the nature is very small, limited. So let me share one story here. I think I'm open to share that with you. I think about maybe 8 years ago, 2018, soon after I joined Citadel, I got a call from SoftBank, and I think they invited me to come to this building, one of the office downstairs. It's very senior, very senior probably people. They said that they have this idea of how to use AI at that time. That was before ChatGPT came out, right? But they know that I have been working on, many grams, that kind of language model. How they have idea that could still be viable idea, or for those of you to think about. They said, so they have about how many, almost hundreds of portfolio companies as a VC. Well, SoftBank has a lot of them. And I think the guy who talked with me, probably he's the one that got acquired, a very senior guy. And then they have the idea that since they actually control, not 100% control, but by and large, they control most of the portfolio, they are able to put all the data across the portfolio companies and put them together, anonymize them and put them together. And with this amount of data, they want to have AI, like the one I am very good at, to come up with intelligence system that actually basically increase the number of data for individual VC company or PE company by 2 orders of magnitude or even more. And from that, then build the dialogue system, in terms of conversation in such a way that all the portfolio can benefit from this one. And then I actually tried to think about that problem for a while. It turned out that there was some interesting things going on. But I don't think eventually, I decided not to join because I already started my company. If they actually got that information to me about maybe 1 year earlier when I was at Microsoft, I could have done that. But I don't think they have that to my current knowledge. And there must be some other problems they are facing, which I have some internal knowledge why they didn't, that couldn't take off.
Yeah, I mean VC.
So it's much harder.
Yeah.
When you get 100 times, data from VC together, it may still have some problem.
Is the answer basically just vibes?
Yeah, I think it's very hard for the VC. But there could be. I mean, one thing that, to your point, one potential solution would be to use AI to generate the data. But AI has to be much better than the way it is. Maybe 3, 4, 5 years from now, AI is good enough. They can generate the data, simulating, companies not exactly the same. Otherwise, you get redundant data, which is not useful. But slightly variation, like simulation. If you can do the simulation to generate the data that can simulate realistic VC company about all the internal operation, their customers, all this data all together, I think there could be some solution to that problem.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
This was a very, very fun conversation. Thank you for joining
Thank
me
you.
up here. And no better way to end it on just vibes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, agree, vibe. And then another keyword is what's called using AI to generate data, because the existing data is limited.
Synthetic data.
Yeah, synthetic data.
Can I make a
Great.
request? One
Okay.
selfie with everyone
Yeah.
else in here. All right,
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah,
Thanks so much.
nice to meet
That was
you.
fun.
Yeah, great.
All right, give it up for them.